Hi, it's Bernie Goldbach on Sunday the 3rd of October, and you're in my back garden listening to the cars go by on the N74. As I do a quick flick through Sunday papers today, it's a jam-packed set of information topics, mainly relating to money and the Irish economy, because as you can see, front page of the Financial Times continues covering Ireland's debt problems, and that issue resonates everywhere. But since you're going to be listening to me and listening to the background noise of cars going by, here's an interesting little piece from Mike Southern. He writes the My Business section of Entrepreneur in the Financial Times, and he's pointing out about why salesmen should continue talking rather than showing pictures, because we have an unconscious relationship with sound. And he pulls a lot of this information from the soundagency.com. If you want to find information that's flowing with this, you want to follow it, you need to follow people like Documentally or Mikkel Fernstrom, who's Cyber Viking, on Audioboo, and create interesting soundscapes. These guys are doing the business. Inside the Financial Times, more bad news for Ireland. It's going to keep running because people just love blood. They love the sight of a car crash, an economics car crash. Ireland faces debt test in the new year. That's a recessionary topic. John Murray Brown pulls it up from Dublin. I mean, I'm sure he's hated at the Minister of Finance's office because, he has no trouble finding out that Ireland is leading the league in the way of how much money they actually need to borrow to make it out of this hole that we've created for ourselves in the Celtic Tiger days. BMW's chief is warning about vehicle funding. This is something you might not realize. Sure, you may want to go ahead and buy your new car and be like eco-friendly and green or electric and green, but as Norbert Reithofer points out, they're going to need about 10 to 15 years to finance this inside the house, which means don't feel bad if you buy a new car or a used petrol car, because you got to keep that ecosystem running. Irish Times takes a good twist on the issue of how much sacrifice Irish taxpayers are putting up with. And inside this paper, they've done a really good thing. They've let an individual person, a regular citizen, write an article. Barbara Scully hits the nail on the head. She offers her response to Thursday's announcement of a $50 billion euro bill bailout. And like many people, finds issue with Brian Lenihan, just not telling the straight story. She, Barbara Scully, calls on every TD in Ireland from all parties to none to set aside political differences and come up with a cross-party strategy. You know what? She's actually got a good election strategy there. If the politicians of the opposition would simply say, look, we want to have a chance to make our side of the story known, they could probably do that. They could probably get resonance. Here's something cool. Davin O'Dwyer points out that homes have been preserved by Google Street View for posterity. This is a big deal for tourism. And for you guys that are snarking about it, Christ, man, you must not know how much people love to see the pictures of Ireland coming down onto their computers or onto their handheld devices. I mean, I even tell people to ride this number 10 bus. Americans who are visiting me, yeah, they're going to miss the number 10 bus. Anna Carey writes a story. It's a tourism item as well as just a public service item. Interesting stuff. Number 10 bus, I've ridden it a couple times all the way down to UCD, starting inside Phoenix Park area. I like this picture. It's an exhibition running postcards from the future. It's part of London Futures at the Museum of London until March 6, 2012. Cool stuff. London underwater. Inside the Sunday Times magazine. But inside the Sunday Times itself, bank boss implicates the regulator. Meltdown thought. John Mooney gets the story. If allegations are proved, it's going to undermine the prosecution of Anglo's former executives, because at the end of the day, a lot of people think the Irish regulator, the central bank or the financial regulator are actually implicated, are actually incompetent in how they looked at the Irish economy. I can say that because I'm a blogger and won't be sued, and it can be insinuated by John Mooney on the front page here, but I mean, the courts are going to prove it out as well. This is pretty interesting. It's a tax, Mark Tye points out. He didn't say it's a tax, but a woman ran up a bill of 17,000 euro after failing to pay her electronic tolling charges on 198 cases. Her name is Sharon Dunn. She rides along the M50 where we do on the way to Drogheda. The judge said, look, I doubt that you could fail to run up a bill of 17,000 euro if you didn't pay your water service or your ESB charges. So they reduced the charge from 17,000 down to about 3,000, but she'll still have to pay solicitor's fees, I'm sure. Where is it headed? When Ireland starts cutting back, they're going to cut back in VECs, that's the vocational education centres that are around Ireland. As a third level lecturer, I'm going to feature and probably backfilling some of the courses that might have been offered there. It's happening already. The game is up with the Croke Park deal. That's what Damien Kybert says. He's a really exceptional interviewer, Damien Kybert. And what he's pointing out here is he's flying a kite for the government. You're going to have to give up some of the pay protection that we have where I work as a third level lecturer for the state. Here's another thing that might have to be given up. I mean, our taxes paid for Mary Hannafin to take her mom with her to New Zealand and to other places. More than 20,000 euro was spent on plane tickets to allow Miss Hannafin, her mom there, and the minister, to go on trips for the government. I mean, our taxes paid for that. Did the mom actually enhance the state? Hey, Google cameras miss out on trouble hotspots. That's a fact. I don't get Damien Mully's point here. He says, privacy, I want to be opted out. But you know what? There's a reason why cameras didn't go through places where the cameras would have been shot at, or nicked, or broken. It's a pure, straightforward issue between privacy and tourism. If you want to check out where I am, you can Google for me. You can find my house. You're welcome to visit. Don't check on Facebook, though, because I don't trust the privacy boys there. And where I live on Facebook is different than where I live in the real world. But you can check with me on Foursquare and find me. The application is a boon. Street View is a boon for tourism, full stop. And actually, it's a story that keeps resonating, and it's not picked up here in the paper the way it could be. Anyway, I'll get to that later. The Red Cross manager who's facing the sack lives down, I think he lives down the street. Noel Wardrick, head of the international department of the Irish Red Cross, is just going to be dismissed because he's pointing out there's some problems internally to the Red Cross. They settled about 150,000 euro donated by people in Tipperary and just didn't make it go to the tsunami victims. That's wrong. Europe's pulling all the strings now. Centerpiece, focus issue, double truck page, coverage in the Sunday Times hits all the nails on the head. The optimism of Brian Lenihan, the incompetence of the Taoiseach as a financial minister, he just didn't get the numbers right. And the rumblings on the back benches of Fine Gael, where they don't actually trust this guy, Ed Kenny, leading the government, leading the country out of its mess. In fact, the Sunday Times goes and names who they'd like to have succeed the Fine Gael leader, and that's Leo Varadkar. I think it's a well-written editorial. There's one sense that the Sunday Times has, the Irish public isn't just fed up with Brian Cowan or Enda Kenny, but just disgusted with an entire generation of senior politicians. Translated, that means that people like me, a boomer, have to give way now to millennials or to Generation X people. Final chapter for books. Owen Purcell writes a great story here called Think Tank, and he talks through why books might be better if in an electronic format. He knows what he's doing, and I'm trying to borrow his ideas for some program we're doing with delivery of content through the iPad in the next semester. Jennifer O'Connell gives you a quick way of viewing the recession. She's Jen O'Connell on Twitter. I don't agree with what she says here about cupcakes, because I know with a 3-year-old that I have, she likes making cupcakes, but she doesn't like zinc or titanium cladding on houses, queuing for places in national schools, visible boxer lines, smart TVs, or phrases such as rent is dead money. Read her on Twitter or read her on the journal.ie. Good publication online there. Sunday Business Post, interesting stuff. No Street View for Gangland Limerick. And here's what I'm missing in all this stuff, because inside this Sunday Business Post there's some stuff on the GIS system, Global Information Systems, or the, what do they call it, Global Positioning Systems, and how it all integrates. But you know, you're not going to go into an area where you're going to have the equipment damaged, like Moiras, and you're not going to go into an area where you get shot at. But here's the flip side of that. Google knows where these areas are, and those black spots are actually places to avoid if you're going to issue travel warnings as an embassy, or you're going to take your friends around. Inside the paper, good creativity here, shown by Brownback Films. Octonaut starts tomorrow on CBeebies, and that's good. And there's Cal Guffney, smiling face. Inside the Sunday Business Post is an insert today. It's called Computer and Business. Great stuff. And Adrian focuses on a lot of stuff. I have my prejudices, so I'm a Nokia guy, long time. I like this communicator type interface for the Nokia E7. It doesn't review it, he just gives a preview of it. He does take you into the guaranteed Irish homegrown firms that are making it big. Cites a lot of people who I've dealt with, including Dermot Daly and Michele Nalon, who's currently in Prague, I think. And in the back of it, he's got a review of Nokia Systems, which is kind of a rewarm of the previous week. The mobile market's virtual gamble is pointing out some numbers. I'm an O2 customer and can report that I'm restored to credit. Thank you very much to O2. I fought the battle and argued for some kind of special dispensation for overbilling in the data realm, and I think Adrian should cover that. We're being ripped off for data. Jobs plan goes back to the basics. Ian Keogh points out that there's a big emphasis now by the government on trying to get tourism and agriculture jump-started to pull Ireland out of the recession. That's a good idea. You can say what you will about what that means, but we are connecting tourism, a little bit of agriculture, pride of place actually, in rural Ireland, to a jobs training program at third level. Stay tuned for details. You'll hear it here or on my Twitter nick, topgold, or my blog, Inside View, www.insideview.ie. FOSS is under further pressure. Ian Keogh points out it's an ethical problem. Specifically, FOSS says grants were being used by course sponsors to meet unrelated costs, and the lady running the top of it really wasn't clued in. Mary Coughlin has issues. A lot of issues. The hospital strategy makes no sense as a consultant. Manny McGraw got himself in there in the Sunday Business Post, but here's the inside story. Susan Mitchell, and editor of, and anybody else following the political scenes in Ireland. This guy here, Manny McGraw, is a local guy, drives around with a car and truck that shouts his phrases and his songs. He's going to be instrumental in calling the next local election Irish general election, because he's just not going to vote for the government, and he's going to make the ducks line up and the posters go out at a time that suits him best, potentially as an independent candidate. So he's not the flavor of the month for the Fianna Fáil party. And I think what's going to happen is he's going to actually be part of calling the next election. A lot more than money is at stake here, says Tom McGurk. The struggle is not whether Ireland can balance the books, it's the very heart of survival of the country. He points out some things that over the generation a certain kind of an entitlement has arisen. The government's paid off opposition, paid off people in the unions by establishing these quangos for people, and in one fell swoop they got a lot of those things had to be killed. The problem is a lot of those people in those quangos actually have good contracts, which means the state's going to pay them off. But hey, do that and save the next generations from this kind of cronyism. This is the stuff about geographic information services it's in the paper. What doesn't connect the dots is there would have an easy way of connecting Street View to all this, an easy way to connect to stuff that lightweight consumers are doing, with Foursquare and things like that. They stuck with the higher end solutions, and well, that's a choice of the editor. I think there's a missed opportunity there, because a lot of stuff on your phone today that you have and you don't even know about. I think Adrian deserves to make a phone map review and actually give credit to something like OV Maps that does it really well in the Nokia handset. Okay, I gotta go. Gotta cut back some grass. I cut this last week, and I have to weed some things, deadhead some plants, and get moving on a really nice sunny Sunday here in County Tipperary, Ireland. Thanks a bunch for listening. Catch up with me on twitter.com/topgold or www.insideview.ie, where I blog. Bye for now.